What if a single declaration could open the doors of transformation? What if, when whispered each morning into the silence of dawn, one voice could erase your self-doubt, sharpen your inner vision, and shape your identity anew? You see, there is no distance between who you are and who you long to become, only the pattern of thought repeated. This isn't mere motivation. It is mental realignment, conscious reimagination. You are not here to be entertained, you are here to be reprogrammed. This is the first act of your daily creation, and when the subconscious is unguarded, soft like clay, the impressions you allow in will echo throughout the day. Autosuggestion is the law by which the unseen becomes seen, not by willpower, not by shouting, but by conscious repetition, emotionalized with conviction. Each day, each thought, each utterance becomes a stone in the structure of the self. The men you revere, Ford, Edison, Carnegie, they did not stumble upon greatness. They installed it. They etched it into the walls of the subconscious, word by word, belief by belief. Ford once declared, "Whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right." That is not philosophy. It is design. You are not merely hearing these words. You are forging a new frame of mind. This is your shield, your compass, your sword against the stale voice of who you once were. So let us begin again. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are not late. You've merely accepted the script of others, trained to doubt, to delay, to downplay your own genius. But no longer. You are the builder, the finisher, the one who rises each morning and speaks purpose into being. Your mind does not lead you, you lead it. Your emotions do not command you, you command them. So declare, I do not compromise with weakness. I do not wait for mood or momentum. I direct my awareness. I govern my reality. I move with knowing. The giants of creation, the men who etched their names into the memory of time, they faced the same resistance, but they trained their inner ear to hear only the voice of vision. Charles M. Schwab did not dominate because he was clever. He led because he was resolute. Say it. I am aligned. I am precise. I am clear in purpose. I do not live by chance. I create by law. You are not entering the world today to be behind the footsteps of who you have become. We've spoken the identity. We've practiced the behavior. We've ignited momentum. Now we arrive at the highest tier of identity work, the place where few reach, not because they're not capable, but because they stop too soon. This is the realm of irreversibility. It's not just about change. It's about making the change so deeply embedded, so embodied, that going backward becomes impossible. Not just difficult, not just unlikely, but incompatible with your current self. Understand this. True transformation isn't complete when others notice it. It's complete when returning to your former self feels like betraying your soul. This is the goal. This is what we now build. You don't want to keep restart. You don't want to keep battling the same habits, the same doubts, the same weak loop. You want to bury them, not suppress. Replace, rewire, render, obsolete. To do this, you must reach a point where the old identity no longer fits, where you've stretched so far, burned so many bridges to that past version, that wearing those patterns again would feel foreign, like putting on clothes that no longer fit, not physically, but energetically. So, how do we do that? It begins with environmental anchoring. The version of you that existed before was sustained by surroundings, spaces, habits, people, language. If you want irreversibility, you must make it impossible to live in those conditions again. Ask yourself, does your space reflect the identity you now embody? Does your digital world support it or sabotage it? Do your daily inputs fortify your fire or feed your former fears? You must become merciless with environment. Rearrange your space. Eliminate old triggers. Redesign the systems you live in. Make the old patterns impossible to replicate. Then comes emotional detachment. The reason men relapse into old selves is not because they lack discipline. It's because they're emotionally entangled with their history. They have nostalgia for patterns that sabotage them. They romanticize comfort. They think pain was familiar, so it was safe. You must sever this link. The old you is not your friend. He is not your story. He is a version you outgrew. When his voice returns, speak back. I no longer live there. I no longer think that way. I no longer wear that identity. Every time you choose to break emotional ties to that previous self, you give the new you more ground to root into. Now we escalate. To create irreversibility, you must also generate public congruence. You must be so visible in your new standard, so vocal in your commitments, so consistent in your demonstration, that turning back would make you a liar, to yourself and to the world. This isn't about external validation. It's about external alignment. Announce your code, define your standard, make it visible in how you operate so that every environment you step into reflects your chosen identity back to you. Because here's the deeper truth. We become what we're accountable for, and accountability expands when you embody your identity not just in silence, but in structure. So design systems. Weekly reviews where you audit alignment. Identity checklists for your morning ritual. Core principles on your wall, not your phone. Systems are how you keep progress irreversible. Systems make sure the old identity has no breathing room. And then, the final pillar, legacy mindset. When your identity is still about you, the temptation to fall back always lingers. But when you shift from internal transformation to impact, everything becomes deeper. Who are you becoming? Not just for your benefit, but for those who will follow your model. When you carry the weight of future generations, of your family, your team, your mission, slipping becomes more costly. Not in shame, in stewardship. A man building legacy can't afford to live casually. He can't afford to entertain mediocrity, because his decisions ripple. That's when the change becomes permanent. Not because of fear, but because of responsibility. You weren't born just to fix your own patterns. You were born to forge a path, to be an example, to carry a torch others didn't even know they could hold. That is the final phase of identity installation. You make it irreversible by 1. Severing all bridges to the former self. 2. Designing an environment that only allows the new you to breathe. 3. Breaking emotional attachment to familiar pain. 4. Demonstrating your standards so powerfully it echoes in others. 5. Carrying your identity not as ego, but as a responsibility. When you do this, when you speak, act, walk, build, and lead from this place, you are no longer evolving. You have evolved, and the former you can no longer follow. So now, take inventory. What still echoes from the old you? What reminders still linger in your space? What permissions are you still giving to past versions? Now burn them. Delete the files. Clear the contacts. Clean the drawer. Change the rhythm. Every symbol you remove is a seed planted for the man you are anchoring. This is the clean slate. This is where it becomes permanent. And when the voice of the old identity returns, and it will, you will not entertain it. You will not argue with it. You will not try to reason or make peace. You will simply say, that man is gone. And then you will act like it. That's irreversibility. Not a goal, a decision, a declaration, a daily demonstration. This is your final install. This is the edge where most turn back. You will not, because this isn't about hype. This is about destiny. So walk like you already burned the bridge, and never look back. Now that the old self has been left behind and your identity is no longer reversible, you stand on new ground. But this is not the final summit. This is where real responsibility begins. Because once you have mastered yourself, the next phase is inevitable and sacred: leadership. And not the kind defined by titles or applause. This is identity leadership. Quiet, tight, unshakable, embodied. It's not about having followers. It's about becoming the kind of man others calibrate themselves by. You see, once you live your transformation, not say it, but live it, you begin to radiate influence. And the more refined your identity, the more your presence becomes instruction without a word. This is the leadership of presence. And it's not optional. Here's what most miss. True leadership isn't chosen. It's claimed by those who live in such stark contrast to mediocrity that their life becomes a compass for others. You don't lead by shouting louder. You lead by being so aligned, so consistent, that the very structure of how you move becomes a model. So if you've reached the level of irreversibility, your next calling is this: become the standard. You no longer live just for your own progress. You live as an example. Let's break this down. Leadership through identity means your first responsibility is embodiment, to walk the talk so thoroughly that contradiction has no room to exist in your character. It means your habits are not suggestions. They are laws. Your boundaries are not guidelines. They are walls. Your vision is not a dream. It is a direction you walk every day. So now the question becomes, who is watching? Because someone is. Your family, your team, the quiet observer in your circle, the younger version of you looking for proof that it's possible to evolve without collapsing. And this is where your work deepens. Identity leadership requires you to become predictable in your power, not erratic, not moody, not occasional, predictable. The world is full of chaos. You become the contrast, a man who others can count on, not because you promise, but because you are. This level of leadership cannot be taught. It must be transmitted, and it's transmitted when your identity is so rooted, your actions so precise, your words so measured, that people begin to adjust their own standards in your presence. Not through force, through frequency. That's how power is transferred. But now you must upgrade your rituals. Your standard is no longer personal. It's generational. Your discipline is no longer about your goals. It's about the permission you give others to believe bigger. Your consistency is no longer about streaks or checklists. It's about becoming the invisible pillar holding up the room. So now the question is, how do you lead without speaking? You show up before others expect you. Stay calm when others unravel. Keep standards in the room when others compromise. Move with conviction when others are still deciding. This is high-level identity maturity, and it must be forged deliberately. Create space for reflection, not for guilt, but refinement. Ask, where did I lead today, silently? What did my presence teach without words? Who did I influence simply by being consistent? Because this is the ripple you came to create. You were not meant to just change your own life. You were meant to demonstrate what's possible. And the man who can demonstrate daily, without performing, without seeking approval, he becomes the architect of culture. You've now moved from student to symbol, but symbols require structure. So establish personal commandments, not affirmations, not hopes, commandments. Immutable truths that define your walk. Examples: I do not move in emotion. I move in mission. I do not dilute my energy. I direct it. Do not borrow my standard. I build it. These commandments become your inner constitution. And when they are lived, not said, lived, you become the most potent form of leader, a man others calibrate their identity by. Not because you instruct them, because you inspire alignment through demonstration. And here is where it all ties together. Leadership at this level creates legacy. Not through reputation, but through resonance. People won't just remember what you did, they'll remember how they felt in your presence. And that presence is engineered through identity. You were never here just to build wealth. You were never here just to escape mediocrity. You were here to carry the fire, to keep the standard alive, to walk into any environment and by your very being raise its frequency. That is identity leadership. And it begins with a quiet decision. I lead by who I am. So, take this into your day. Lead with precision. Lead with silence. Lead with certainty. And every room you enter will feel it. Not because you said it, because you became it. This is your new responsibility. This is your next evolution. And you are ready. Once you've stepped fully into the embodiment of your identity and accepted the responsibility of leadership through presence, a final frontier emerges. It's not obvious. It doesn't announce itself. But for the one who continues forward, it becomes unavoidable. This is the space of transcendence. Transcendence is not the rejection of the self. It is the mastery of the self so fully that you no longer need to prove it. The ego falls quiet. The internal war ends. You become something more than a man changing himself. You become a vessel for a larger current. Let's explore this. When you started, identity was something you declared. You said it aloud. You wrote it down. You made it conscious. Then you practiced it. Then you embodied it. Then you protected it. Then you led with it. But now you transcend it. This doesn't mean it disappears. It means you're no longer fixated on it. You've installed it so deeply that your awareness is now free to rise beyond the mechanics of identity and into the dimension of meaning. You stop asking, "Who am I?" and begin asking, "What am I here to carry?" Because this is the truth few understand. Your final evolution isn't self-expression. It's selfless expression. And you can only reach this when you've built an identity strong enough to dissolve into something greater. This is what the masters knew. It's what made them different. Gandhi didn't talk about discipline. He was the embodiment of alignment. MLK didn't repeat affirmations. He carried a vibration rooted in truth. They had transcended the need to prove who they were and began to channel what they stood for. And now it's your turn. So what does this actually look like? It looks like clarity beyond the self. It looks like action without applause. It looks like devotion to a mission that matters more than your name. You begin to move in rhythm with something eternal. Your discipline becomes devotion. Your leadership becomes stewardship. Your standard becomes sacred. This is the shift from personal development to spiritual embodiment. And you get here by letting go of control. Not recklessly. Not by becoming passive, but by trusting that the man you've built is now capable of carrying something bigger than himself. You let the mission speak. You let the work move. You no longer seek clarity every day. You are clarity. Let's be practical. To live in this transcendent state, you must surrender the need to constantly audit yourself. You no longer check if your identity is working. You assume it is. You've earned that confidence. Instead, your focus shifts entirely outward. Who am I serving? What message am I carrying? What frequency am I transmitting through my existence? You stop focusing on reputation. You start focusing on resonance. Because when you transcend identity, the energy you give off matters more than the words you say. You become medicine. People feel calm around you, not because you say the right thing, but because you are the right thing. People rise in your presence, not because you tell them to, but because you've stopped shrinking. This is where all the layers of identity work stack into something unexplainable. And this is not about religion. This is not about dogma. This is about operating from a place of deep alignment with the higher order of things. Call it purpose. Call it flow. Call it God. But know this, you are now part of something that does not rely on force. It moves through you. And you, finally, let it. This is why you trained. This is why you burned the old script. This is why you installed the new code. This is why you led yourself, so that now you could disappear into your purpose. And this doesn't make you less powerful. It makes you unstoppable, because you're no longer concerned with earth. Being seen, you're concerned with serving. You're no longer trying to be impressive. You're trying to be impactful. This is the invisible edge. The shift from achiever to anchor. From builder to beacon. From man to message. And it is rare, because most will get to identity and stop. They'll protect it, promote it, perform it. But they won't transcend it. Why? Because transcendence requires trust, not just in yourself, but in the source that guides your work. That's where you now stand. So take inventory. What are you still holding on to that is about your name and not your mission? What goals are still driven by proving rather than giving? What part of you is still trying to be the identity rather than the vessel? Let it go. Let the code run in the background. Let the mission come to the forefront. This is the beginning of your highest frequency. This is how legacy becomes eternal. Not by branding, by being. So now walk differently. Not to be admired. To transmit alignment. Speak differently. Not to be clever. To offer clarity. Live differently. Not to escape the world, but to elevate it. This is the final evolution, not just becoming someone new, becoming no one, so that something greater can move through you. And that something, it is waiting, not for your perfection, for your surrender. You are ready. Now you are no longer just the man who transformed. You are no longer just the one who leads. And you've transcended identity, not because it disappeared, but because it became automatic, embodied, and unshakable. So what's next? You step into a new level of existence, invisible impact. The most powerful forces in the universe are unseen. Gravity holds planets in orbit. Magnetism arranges matter. Breath keeps us alive. And now your very presence must become that subtle yet undeniable, quiet yet transformation. You are no longer building your identity. You are shaping the unseen structure of every space you walk in. This is mastery. Invisible impact is not the absence of influence. It is the highest expression of it. It means you don't need to announce your growth. You don't need to defend your values. You don't need to impose your beliefs. Because your energy says everything. Because your consistency is louder than your voice. Because your vibration shapes outcomes before words are spoken. Let's unpack this. When a man enters a room with invisible impact, he is calm without trying, and he is trusted without asking. He is followed without forcing. Why? Because his inner state is so ordered that the outer world responds in kind. You've done the deep work. You've burned through the noise. Now you begin to shape, not through declaration, but through resonance. So how do you cultivate this level of impact? Step 1. Energetic congruence. Everything you do, how you move, speak, breathe, must carry the same signal. If you say one thing but carry doubt, the energy is fractured. If you offer advice but are agitated inside, it's felt. Even if not seen, your power now comes not from how loud your voice is, but how still your center is. Congruence is magnetic. People may not understand it consciously, but they feel safe in your presence because you are internally unified. So this must become your practice. Every action must come from alignment. Every word must be anchored in truth. Every decision must originate from calm clarity. Step 2. Environmental regulation. You no longer simply protect your environment, you subtly calibrate it. If chaos walks in, you remain composed. If conflict arises, your energy grounds it. If fear enters the space, your presence reassures without words. This is not performance. This is presence as power. You are no longer reacting to energy. You are setting it. The room adjusts to you now, because your frequency is firm, reliable, anchored. This is why emotional mastery was never just about self-control. It was preparation for this level of quiet command. Step 3. Unspoken standard setting. Invisible impact means you carry a standard so strong, others rise to meet it without being told. You don't criticize laziness, you model discipline. You don't judge inconsistency, you are consistency. You don't shame fear. You walk courage so calmly that others remember who they are. People change around you, not because they are pressured, but because their better self wakes up in your presence. That's the legacy of invisible impact. You leave people more whole, more clear, more elevated than you found them. And they don't even know why. Step 4. Sacred restraint. Now that you know how much weight your presence carries, you learn when to speak and when to stay silent, when to advise and when to allow, when to challenge and when to simply be. Restraint becomes holy. You don't rush to fill silence. You don't demand understanding. You let your life become the loudest message. This is not withdrawal. This is mastery. You become the still point in a spinning world, the pause that resets a moment, the eye of the storm. Step 5. Legacy through frequency. At this level, you begin to understand. Legacy is not just about what you build, but about how your energy lives in the people you touch. You are no longer just remembered by your accomplishment. You are remembered by the feeling you left in the hearts of others. So your question shifts. Not what did I do today, but how did I move today? Not what say, but what did I emit? Not who did I convince, but who did I anchor? This is the realm where your life becomes medicine, where your walk becomes prayer, where your stillness becomes signal. And here's the final key. Invisible impact isn't passive. It's precision, intent without ego, action without attachment, power without performance. You've reached this level because you no longer need to be seen to be felt. And this is the mark of a man who is no longer leading with force, identity, or willpower. He's leading with presence. The world may never give him awards, may never trend his name, but behind every transformation, every unseen miracle, every quiet breakthrough, he was there, holding the frequency. You are that man now. So step forward today with stillness, not noise, with clarity, not control, with energy, not effort, and trust what you carry speaks louder than what you say. That is invisible impact, and that is your final transmission. Now walk into the world as a quiet force, a steady hand, an unseen fire. You are felt everywhere you go, shaped by it. You are shaping it by who you are becoming. While others scroll, you anchor. While others react, you initiate. While others forget their mission, you reaffirm it. This is not a speech. This is your daily software install. Your code rewrite. The sound of the old story dying and the new story rising. Say it. I am not ordinary. I am not wandering. I do not hope. I execute. I repeat greatness until it becomes default. I finish what I start. I do not fold. You must understand, this is not hype. This is the practice of identity embodiment, the repetition of inner truth until outer reality conforms. You are building steel where once there was sand. And now, we imprint the 10 rare qualities of those who shape destiny. 1. Relentless self-belief. Say, I am the one who believes when no one else does. I do not wait for evidence. I am the evidence. 2. Definiteness of purpose. Say, I am clear. I do not scatter. My goals are commands, not curiosities. 3. Emotional command. Say, I do not flinch. I respond with precision. I embody control. 4. Obsession with repetition. Say, I return daily to the altar of conviction. Repetition is my secret. 5. Execution over excuses. Say, I move before I feel ready. I act before doubt speaks. I am the proof. 6. Faith through action. Say, I act in alignment with belief. My habits affirm my truth. 7. Endurance under pressure. Say, I grow stronger in resistance. Pressure forges the shape of who I am. 8. Ruthless focus. Say, my attention is sacred. I pursue only what aligns. 9. Radical ownership. Say, I am the source. If it's mine, I create it. If it's broken, I mend it. 10. Strategic silence. Say, I rise in silence. I speak through result. This is not merely recitation. This is invocation. Identity construction. A daily conversation between the man you've been and the man you choose to be. You do not become through inspiration. You become through installation. Say it. I rise. I finish. I am focused. I do not drift. I do not dither. I do not delay. I walk in purpose. I speak in truth. I'm not who I was. I am who I decide to be. There is no retreat. There is no fallback. Burn the old scripts. Speak the new one until your reflection changes. So protect your mind. 1. Guard input. No more mental trash. What enters must support your expansion. 2. Repeat power. Let repetition be your religion. Let your identity be sung into form. 3. Align with action. Belief without motion is fantasy. I